it's like a weird saying. I have like sometimes I'll be like, man, that's a real Anglo-Saxon way of looking at things. Not saying all white people.
We all got an opinion, but can you back yours up? Where you get your sources from? Hope that don't got you stuck. We gon' check you and your understanding of knowledge. That's regardless if you finished school or went to college. Not everything is as black and white as it seems. This show here is about expressing what you mean. Whether you get canceled or whether you get flagged. Welcome to the Cancel Podcast with Elliot and Jay.
So hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cancel Podcast, where we aim to challenge one's own thoughts by bringing unique, creative, and potentially divisive topics to the table for discussion. And as always, it's your boy Darius, aka Jay, representing Legendary Media Group. Today I have two special guests with me, Mr. Aaron Davis, as well as Mr. Dave Jordan. And today we're going to actually talk about masculinity and what really is masculinity. Like, let's explore what that is. So I want to start it off by saying, what is your interest in this particular topic? Like, what kind of drawn you into this episode and why you want to talk about masculinity specifically? And either one, you can go first on that.
Well, shoot, I think it's interesting because every time I look out in the world today, I look on Facebook, I look on different social media platforms. Everywhere I see, if the word masculinity is used, 90% of the time, toxicity is applied with it. So it's almost like being masculine is a negative in society. At least that's the way I'm viewing social media, and when I talk to people, like that's what their view is. So for me, I'm like, man, a lot of the things that I see that are considered masculine to the world, that's not really my idea of masculinity, and that's not really my how I was brought up.
Okay.
You know, from the men that were in my family. So my whole view on masculinity is totally different. I'm like, yo, you talking about that's not even masculine to me. That's feminine. So, you know, I wanted to be on this episode to kind of like clarify my thoughts and my feelings on the matter.
Okay. Aaron, how about you?
Likewise, I would definitely say that when it comes to masculinity, first off, I'm a man, identify as such, have been for all my life. I think that when it comes to masculinity, there is so many different viewpoints on it. And it's also, I think more so in this generation, what I've been seeing on social media, it's turned into something that people look at through their own personal eyes, meaning like, dating and masculinity, in my personal opinion, are being totally misconstrued. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They're not being treated as two separate type of ideals, in general, masculinity is very clearly defined. You can look at through biological lens or, what have you, but it's very clearly defined. I feel like today people are just, making it fit their own viewpoint.
Okay. So you bring in like the defining masculinity. What would masculinity define be for you? Like, what would your definition of masculinity be?
For me, I'm very simplistic. Case in point, if you are born a man or you identify as a man and you exhibit qualities of manhood based on biological, functions and everything like that, or in terms of how, you identify socially, like, I guess you could talk about in terms of testosterone. If you have higher level amounts of testosterone and you identify as a man, that's cool too. But I think in general, it's just, identify as a man. That's what I am. And I live my life as such. Now, societal definitions differ, what I'm saying, especially based off where you come from and, who raises you, what area of the world you're born into. But as far as you just being born into this world and you identify as a man, I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? That's what you are. And that's what I'm going to address you as.
Okay. And David, what about you? What is your definition?
A lot of my definitions goes back to my morals and my principles. So for me, big part of my morals and principles is I was raised Christian, and I come from like the Bible perspective with my morals and principles. And like for me, I think that's just like a respect thing that the world don't really have. Is I can have morals. I don't have to infringe upon your rights or something like that. But from where my morals come, my perspective comes. That's how humans operate, and I don't think people can control my perspective, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't even know if I asked that question correctly. I kind of went on a tangent, but
it's one of those weird questions, man. That's like,
like I have the perspective of masculinity. The traits come from the Bible. It's pretty much the simple answer to that question without context.
Okay, so if I would have to ask about that from the more biblical, more religious based background in that, would you say masculinity is more so tied into like the gender specific roles that individuals have to have? Like a man has these type of roles and titles that they must adhere to, versus a woman having these particular roles and titles and responsibilities that they have to adhere to.
Well, I think a lot of the traits for men just make sense off of our roles as hunters, out of our roles as protectors. Like, we can't protect our family if we're making emotional decisions. So that's going to be suppressed a lot, because the wrong decision means we lose our family, and I always say, like, it's simple to me. Logically, if somebody comes in your house, say you're married, man, wife, somebody comes in your house and you have kids, they come in with a gun. What are the roles going to be? Like, naturally, the role is going to be the one that is going to go to the kids and protect the kids. The man is going to protect everybody else, and they're going to confront the problem. That's just like biologically what would be natural in that situation. So I think a lot of the instincts and a lot of that stuff is natural. I'm not saying like women can't do it. I'm not saying men are shoehorned into a certain way to do it, but I'm saying, like, logically, the perspectives from the Bible make sense a lot of times.
Okay. So, go ahead.
So, yeah, I agree with him on a lot of those aspects. I would push back a little bit in terms of like, and we're talking about older societies, like, Native American, indigenous hunter-gatherer societies, and it has been proven that that ideal that we're taught, like, oh, the men go out and hunt. A lot of scientists have actually, did research and discovered that there are female skeletons that also hunted with the men. So there are, from these tribes, men and women that did share that role as far as going out and hunting. If you're a part of a society, it's all about working together for the greater good, for the greater needs of society. So that's the only thing. Yeah, that's the only thing I would push back on. Other than that, I agree with him 100%, in terms of logically, I do think men are more logical creatures. I think that's just something that comes to us,
Okay, so it seems like, and either you can interrupt me if I'm wrong on this. So it seems like more so masculinity is being correlated with a more logistical approach versus femininity being much more of an emotional approach. Is that?
I agree. Yeah, okay. and we have both. I just want to put that out there too. We have both, but I think in terms of men, our logic is more dominant than our emotional.
Like statistically.
Yeah, more. Statistically. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So one question I'll have in terms of like, do you think that the masculine and feminine principles can kind of cross gender roles and kind of like, like, is this something that's just inherent to men, or is it something that women could actually utilize and base their foundation on? So like one case study I wanted to bring up was how we talk about like Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, other women that are deemed like more masculine because of their approach to what traditional feminism, like it doesn't work with them. Like the fact that they're so vocal, that they're so in your face, and they're really just saying, this is who I am, and exuberating some high level of confidence, that would traditionally be considered masculine. But yet they still, in terms of how they dress and how they carry themselves, is still considered very feminine, very, very soft in terms of their physique and everything like that. So what are your takes on that in terms of women actually being incapable of having the same kind of what's traditionally deemed as masculine principles?
I'll say when it comes to it, like I still look at them as feminine. They don't really come across to me as masculine. They're kind of they got brash styles, which I guess some people could look at as masculine, but Cardi B,
Mm-hmm.
Megan Thee Stallion, not really masculine. Um, you know, and that goes back to like some racial things, like you know, like society, stronger women are looked at um as masculine, you know, like let's say black women, they have more definition in their body, more muscle, just regularly, like bigger, you know, bigger butts, bigger glutes, like they have a lot more muscle, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think a lot of that stuff comes down to like race and the perception of the people that um were over those views. So, you know, over the media or whatever, and they kind of pass that outlook down. But to me, they're not masculine. I mean, look at the Megan Thee Stallion situation. I think what's her boy name that shot her in the foot? I think that was hella feminine. You know what I mean? Like shot a woman in the foot. You know what I mean?
Tory
Like,
Lanez.
yeah, Tory like, bruh, I mean, I know you 5'2" or whatever, but come on, bro. You shot a woman in the foot. So I don't know. I think the world is confused as to what masculine is because they're not going off a set of principles. They're going off of ideals. And in my opinion, a lot of that comes from emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that he brought that up, kind of brought race up into the mix because one thing that we have to understand when we have this conversation about masculinity and femininity, Black women are deemed as more masculine than white women. That has just been the case. There are studies that looked at that. We live under a racist system. So, of course, when you live under a racist system where white people are elevated, white women are going to be the pinnacle of femininity. And then Black women who are at the bottom are going to be deemed as masculine, you know, based on society's eyes. No matter how much she puts makeup on, her hair done, what have you. You know what I'm saying? And I think, interestingly enough, when you look at Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B, a lot of the pushback is coming from white men and Black men who subscribe to the idea of what is masculinity through a white gaze. So this idea that, oh, they're too outspoken. Okay, that deems them as masculine. They're, you know, making this music about having sex when they're the ones that should be chased. They're the ones doing the chase. You know what I'm saying? You have this pushback because of confident talk about what they rap about, you know, and how they are in public. You know, I've never seen Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion in an interview meek, you know, just kind of, you know, just on the microphone, just they're full of life and full of personality. And for some reason that translates into masculinity for some reason.
Right. Well, I would say traditionally, though, having that brash persona, being more outspoken, being more confident, that's usually more in line with what's masculine by the traditional definitions, right? In terms of femininity, that's usually viewed as submissive and kind of soft-spoken and much more, you know, kind of in the room but not leading the room, at least from the American perspective. Because I did actually do some research, and it's actually kind of flipped a little bit in terms of like Asian cultures, where it's like instead of viewing the man as, you know, you have to be the what is it, like the ultra aggressor, the protector, things of that nature, their definition, and this is just off me doing some research online, was more so focused on just being a provider, and that's pretty much it. Whatever's happening in the household is the only priority. Other than that, you don't have to worry about any other kind of situations kind of put on you outside of the household. You won't be frowned upon or, you know, upheld for doing so. So you don't have to necessarily be like the superhero that David was kind of aligning to earlier. It's more so of, do you take care of your family? Are they protected? Are they comfortable living?
So you're saying that the roles aren't defined, like it's individual to your relationship.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's the case. I would say in terms of a general aspect, it may not be just relationship based, but how so people view one another on a whole, on a large perspective. Because like let's just say if we were in like a business meeting, right? And if the woman was leading the meeting and she was considered loud or anything like that, like it's frowned upon, you know? Like it's looked at as some form of misalignment to kind of say like, oh, she's a woman, she shouldn't necessarily speak this way. But if a man were to do the same thing, you know, it's kind of praised. They're They're the ones in the room, like being more
They're
masculine,
also
taking control.
right.
Yeah.
Even though that may be part of her job. Like if she works in HR, if she works in a managed position, and she's that's part of your job title, to be outspoken, to, you know, lead essentially a company.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's up to a man to be responsible. If a woman's in a position of power or love, you got to respect that. So, you know, I do think a lot of the way a woman will act when they're in power is because of the way that the dudes respond to the way she acts when she's regular. Like they might not listen to her when she, you know, not on 10. So to get up in the corporate world and to move up that ladder, she might have to be cutthroat. She might have to be, you know, an a-hole or whatever to move up in that world and things like that. You know, that tends to be her personality in business because that's what works.
Just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called on my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and